Riverside. This is WHAS 11 News.
At least 9 people are dead as Hurricane Irma continues to impact the Caribbean. It's leaving a trail of damage and flooding from Barbuda to Puerto Rico. We're on your side this morning with the preparation in the U.S. as that storm moves closer to the states. Good morning, Kentuckiana, here at 4:30 on your Thursday, September 7th. I'm Brooke Hash.
And I'm meteorologist T.J. Sharp. Just looking at some of those pictures yesterday, 24 hours ago, it was moving through those areas. I know Barbuda, just the island, literally uninhabitable.
Yeah, they're destroyed.
Completely. And luckily, right now, it's off to the northeast of the Dominican Republic. It's moving toward Turks and Caicos and up toward the Bahamas. Still not much change from what we were talking about yesterday. It's going to get awfully close to Florida, if not in it a bit, and then head up the coast a little bit. More on that in just a second. Here at home, it's just nice and quiet. Another cool morning out there. You're going to need the light jacket as you head out. Nothing on our Max HD radar. Everything looking good around the area here. Notice on the radar and satellite, not much going on. A few little scattered clouds, I think, will drift in as we go through the morning hours here. Morgan & Morgan HD Camera Network, Kentucky One Health Cam 55 here in Louisville. That's always the warm spot, but everywhere else, pretty much in the upper 40s. So again, outlying areas are cooler, so you'll need the jacket, but once the sun comes up, it'll warm up pretty nicely. We'll see the low 70s again for afternoon high, so overall looking pretty good. A few little scattered clouds around, similar to what we had yesterday, although I think we will avoid the rain. Hurricane Irma still 180 mile per hour maximum sustained winds. It's off to the northwest of Puerto Rico and now off to the northeast of the Dominican Republic and Haiti here, the island of Hispaniola. It's moving off to the west-northwest at 16. So the Dominican Republic and Haiti will not see the worst of it because, you really have to get around that eye wall before you get into the very destructive wind. Still, they're going to see a lot of heavy rain and some wind. Forecast tracks still taking it right up toward Miami and then hugging the coast, east coast of Florida, and then eventually weakening it out as it tries to make landfall potentially a second time up toward Hilton Head. And again, a lot of the models indicating that that is going to be the case. We've got 3 storms in the tropics right now. 2 Category 1 hurricanes. Katia there in the Gulf of Mexico. That's going to affect Mexico, of course, Irma, and then Category 1 Jose, which may clip the northern Leeward Islands again, won't be as strong, and then moves out into the Atlantic. So a lot going on in the tropics. Peak of the season is here in just a few days. So it's been a while since we've seen this, but not all that unusual. Our weather stays quiet, but could we see any remnants of Irma coming up next week? I'll tell you about that in the forecast here in just a bit.
All right, TG, thanks so much for that update. Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina are all under states of emergency this morning as these residents brace for Irma. The potentially catastrophic Category 5 storm is being called one of the most powerful ever recorded over the Atlantic Ocean. Here's ABC's Stephanie Ramos with more as this monster storm gets closer to the U.S.
Hurricane Irma slamming Puerto Rico and the northern Caribbean. Nearly every building damaged on the island of Barbuda when the eye of the storm rolled through Wednesday. About 60% of the island's people left homeless. Heavy rain hammering Puerto Rico. Now nearly 1 million people left without power and more than 1,000 in shelters, even though the eye of the storm stayed offshore. Back here on the mainland, Floridians are nailing down their evacuation plans.
Never had a Cat 5, never experienced it, and it's just scary.
Or getting ready to hunker down and weather the Category 5 storm. Most store shelves are bare as people try to stock up on supplies. There are traffic jams on the highways, and here's another common sight in southern Florida. Lines of cars stretching into the street as drivers try to gas up their vehicles.
Gas is running out everywhere right now, so I'm just a little too late trying to get it, I guess.
People here are bracing themselves for what could be one of the worst storms in Florida history.
This is serious, and we cannot take chances. It is life-threatening. This is not a storm you can sit and wait through.
Here in Miami, mandatory evacuations are already beginning in certain areas. And to make that process faster, drivers don't have to pay any interstate tolls. Florida Governor Rick Scott says even though we're at least 48 hours away from that dangerous and powerful storm hitting this area, everyone should take it seriously now. Stephanie Ramos, ABC News, Miami.
And as the focus turns to Hurricane Irma, the government is working hard to make sure those impacted by Hurricane Harvey are not forgotten. The 1-2 punch of the storm is expected to drain the money for the Federal Emergency Management Agency. Roughly $1 billion is left in FEMA's Emergency Response Fund, and it's expected to run out by the end of the week. The House has approved $7.9 billion in Harvey disaster relief. The president worked with Democrats to raise the debt limit and fund the government for the next 3 months. The bill now heads to the Senate. For weather updates in your neighborhood, don't forget to download the WHAS 11 News app in the Google or App Store. We'll be sure to keep you updated on air and online at WHAS11.com. In more local news, Kentucky's only abortion clinic is fighting to stay open. The licensing fight between health regulators and Governor Matt Bevin will continue today inside of a federal courtroom here in Louisville. It's a trial being watched around the country because if the clinic closes, it would make Kentucky the only state in the nation to not offer abortion services.
They're about shutting down abortion facilities. It's about picking off abortion clinics one by one in the state and basically doing what Governor Bevin has said that he wants to do, which is make abortion illegal in Kentucky.
Oh, I think that's what the plaintiffs in this case would like to say that, but it's a diversion from what the true issues in the case are, and that is the right of the legislature to pass acts that will protect the health and safety of women.
Now, the trial is expected to last the rest of the week, with the judge taking months to rule. Dozens of people from Louisville are voicing their opinions about the statues and monuments that could be perceived as racist or promoting bigotry. The city's Commission on Public Art heard several comments last night about the future of public art within the Derby City. The conversations focused on the John Castleman statue in the Highlands neighborhood. All art in public places throughout the city will be reviewed to determine the artistic or historic value. The commission meeting comes on the heels of Lexington city leaders who voted to remove 2 Confederate statues on city-owned property. The Commission on Public Art will give Mayor Greg Fisher a final recommendation.
The statue, this piece of art, is the heart of our neighborhood. We do not need a heart transplant. We need to work together to keep our community heart beating.
You know, if we need a statue to remind us of our history, we need better memories.
Mayor Greg Fisher called for that review following violence in Charlottesville, Virginia, and the vandalism of the Castleman statue in the Highlands. The city will have several more public discussions. A second will be announced soon. You can still give your input or read over the 850 comments the city has received so far. A West Coast state is taking its own action against the possible end to the Dreamer program. When we come back, why California says it plans to file its own lawsuit against the Trump administration. And the possibility of a parole for a killer. Family members responding to the new developments in a case against a follower of Charles Manson.
On the